Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Founders Q&A. You've been sending us some amazing questions and we're excited to get answers to all of them for you. I've got a new guest to share with you to help answer those questions that you've sent in. Chris, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do at Archetype?
Hey y'all, I'm Chris King. I'm the game director on Exodus. Super excited to answer some of your questions today. Obviously, one that comes up all the time is Mass Effect. We obviously share some DNA. The epic space opera, the mega choices that carry over from game to game. Combat, we have a lot of stuff come up. Mass Effect. Horizon is probably another one that we've drawn some inspiration from.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with Horizon, there was, without revealing too much, there's some pieces that Chris and the team have pulled in that we think sort of that elemental aspect of combat where you've got to make decisions based on the construction of the things that you're fighting and be smart about the tools that you use against it. There's some cool things that we think we've pulled in from that.
One of the ones I reference a lot of times is Metroid or Metroid Prime. One of the things that really resonates is just like the exploration, hopping on a spaceship, kind of being out in the middle of nowhere. I kind of like the loneliness in that game. It just makes the environments really interesting. Probably one of the other ones we can do a little tease on there is we have a lot of barriers or things, obstacles, I guess I'll call them, that you run around in the world and that you need sort of celestial tech or abilities and whatnot to get past. So I think that's a great inspiration. This is actually kind of a hard one to answer because we have so many different tools and we've drawn inspiration from so many different places. One of the things we honed in early on was kind of this notion of if you're going into space, there's only so much stuff you can take with you. So one of the things we kind of dug into was like, what is a traveler's Swiss Army knife? It's kind of the same notion of like, how could you sort of have this level of utility if you're traveling in space? So there's a bunch of cool ideas, and I think when you play the game, you'll sort of see how that manifests. But probably one of the coolest ones that I think we came up was the recycler. So this is the base gun that salvagers use. You can kind of scavenge, and the whole notion of this thing is you don't need to carry a bunch of ammo. It's sort of like the flux capacitor from Back to the Future. You know, you can kind of pick up any scrap material, slap it in there, and it'll craft different resources. And then we kind of riffed on that of like, well, what if this thing transformed too? So now I've just got one gun that does everything. So I think that's a really good example of where we kind of used like this really weird inspiration of a Swiss Army knife and tried to come up with this cool way to sort of contextualize that in our sci-fi universe. Yes, we do support stealth. Philosophically, one of the things we love about RPGs is it's all about making really meaningful player choices, and so that extends into combat and gameplay as well. The hope, if we've done our jobs well, is let's say Chad and I go home and we both play the game. I might come back and I say, hey, I defeated this encounter and I went through all stealthy style, and Chad might go, what? I shot everyone in the face or whatever. And then you might have a third person that says, I didn't even engage in the combat because I talked to this other guy and it didn't happen or whatever. So those are the kind of water cooler moments we're going for, and we're trying to support different play styles. Yes, we support stealth. We have a couple companions dedicated to stealth. We have a whole bunch of cool toys in the player kit dedicated to stealth. We have really cool Aegis suits dedicated to stealth. But at the end of the day, if you're not into stealth, you don't really have to partake in any of that stuff. It's all optional.
Yeah, the core of the game is just, one of the cores of the game is built around pursuing ancient celestial technology, what we call remnants. And yeah, Jun's seeking these out throughout the game to help her save her homeworld. And she's gonna have to make some tough decisions with them. So the morally questionable aspect of the question is a really relevant one, but it's more about how she uses them and who she uses them with versus the actual technology themselves. Yeah, so there is a bit of moral complexity with Remnants, but in most cases it's less about the technology and more about Jun's choices as it relates to their outcomes and the way that she wants to leverage them in the play experience.
You know, we've tried to make the choices of what you do with them really, really complicated. So when we talk about these weighty choices that have like huge consequences, these are the biggest decider for that. So a lot of times you're not just weighing the morality of the choice, you're also weighing what the companions want you to do with them, and they don't agree on these things. You're weighing what the best way you want to progress humanity hundreds of years into the future is, but the people might not like some of those things. So these are really, really complicated choices. You know, they're kind of those like put the controller down and sort of ponder what you're going to do a little bit.
All right, so rapid fire, just one. You only get one shot. Name your favorite remnant, but you can't talk about what it is. Just say the title of it.
Relativistic Predator.
Oh, you pronounced it so perfectly too. So good. All right, I get two because I asked the question. So protomatter for sure. Once you play the game, you'll understand that one. The second though is Hell of Liquid Walls.
Nice choice. Nice.
He comes from humble beginnings like we've talked about, but I think an interesting aspect of that is just not really understanding the depth of his power or how crucial he's going to be to humanity's future and the fate of humanity. Throughout the game, you're going to uncover the reasons behind Jun's extraordinary abilities. So there's definitely an unsuspecting hero element to his personality that goes with that. And like many leading characters that find themselves on this kind of hero's journey, her abilities and confidence are going to evolve as she ventures along in the game. We like to think Jun never loses her humanity and the flaws that make her relatable. And so ultimately, we really want that to resonate with players as being somebody that they want to be as a player and can represent them in the game.
I think all of those things. We want it to feel cinematic. We want it to feel really strategic. Maybe taking a step back, one of the inspirations we sort of talked about that we mimicked in our combat loop was, if you look at your favorite sci-fi movies, they kind of have this like infiltration trope. You're kind of always fighting against these enormous odds, so you can't just engage the enemy head on. If you think about in like Star Wars, Luke Skywalker's kind of hiding around when he's trying to rescue Princess Leia. They're wading through garbage. They're dressed up as stormtroopers at one point. If you sort of think about that trope and then you sort of map it out, it sort of equates to like this observe, plan, execute, and then what we jokingly refer to as the oh shit moment, So you sort of scope things out and you plot this great, glorious way you're going to go about solving the puzzle. And then inevitably you start executing it and someone spots you, and then that's when sort of you have to improvise or whatnot. But that's sort of the model we use for combat. Not every encounter you play in the game is going to play out like that. But we really love that notion of like leaning into the player choice and some agency and how you do things and just kind of like the spectacle of it as well.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that aspect of combat being another expression of player choice. And the things Chris was just referring to with what the team has built, like the tools and the elements that you have to solve some of these encounters that you're going to discover in the game, we think are going to give you a lot of choice as a player. And we want players to have ownership of that and feel good in that tension over like, how do I solve this one? How do I want to approach this one? And just give them their choice and treat each encounter as if it's their own.
Yeah, I guess we've talked about this a little bit in some of the other questions today, but so when you start playing, you're kind of fighting more basic enemies. You're on Leiden, it's more human factions. We do have this concept of celestial constructs. I don't know if we've talked about it before on these, but these are celestial robots that have been left behind to sort of defend technology. So at the start of the game, though, before you get your spaceship, that's kind of the primary factions you're fighting and the technology you're up against. Once you get your spaceship and travel into space, though, the further out you go, the more dangerous and progressively more deadly the enemies get.
We've also talked a bit about the rot in the game, and just a quick recap for those who haven't followed along previously. The rot is this sort of unseen force that's affecting technology on your home planet and ultimately corrupting sort of the terraforming engines that are making Leiden a habitable place for humans. And so trying to develop an understanding of how the rot affects humanity and planets and everything in the universe is a key part of the story, but it also affects our enemies.
Yeah, basically the rot's sort of corrupting everything. It's destroying the technology that's keeping Leiden alive. So when you go on Exoduses and come back, this is something that basically corrupts all the celestial constructs that I was sort of alluding to. And so suddenly those become much more dangerous, more aggressive, and that just keeps ratcheting up as time goes on.
Side quests in Exodus are not filler content. They're critical to us for a bunch of reasons. Ultimately, to deliver on our story goals for the game, we think side quests are a really key part of that. We use them to help players feel connected to the universe, help develop relationships with their companions, buff up their skills, and of course, to find some cool shit when they're out exploring in the world.
The reason I love the side quests is there may be threads, stories, companion characters that not all players resonate with. So it gives another avenue of, if you want to learn more about this thing, if you want to really opt in and upgrade some of your tools, if you really like this one companion, you can kind of help them out a bit deeper. So I think that's why I enjoy our side quests.
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately as a role-playing game, we value that kind of depth that you can explore and dive into deeper to get more lore, more cool stuff, all the things that you want to find in a game of some depth as an RPG. So one of our most asked questions, when can I wishlist Exodus? Guess what? I'm finally get to answer this question today. I'm thrilled to say that you can wishlist Exodus now on PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, and the Epic Game Store. In addition to that, if you go to one of those sites, you're going to see some new key art and some new exciting stuff that reveals game screenshots and other cool things about the game. So please go wishlist Exodus now.
Thanks for all the great questions, everyone. We've been super heads down making something amazing. We've been busting our butts. We're super excited to share it with you. This has been super motivating for me. Thanks for having me on here, Chad.
We've also had a lot of other questions come in, particularly about gameplay, release date. We're eager to share more of what we're doing, and you can look for more news and updates later this year. Thanks again for connecting. We've enjoyed our session with you today, and we hope you appreciated our answers. Talk to you all again soon.